Hi guys, so we're just here in St Mullan old graveyard, and I'm here with Brendan, who's the caretaker of the area, and Brendan was very nice to let me in here today. You have to get a key of Brendan to come in and see these beautiful cadavers here. So Brendan is just going to tell us a little bit of history about the old tombs.
Okay, so you're very welcome to St Christopher's Chapel. It's a medieval chapel in relation to the Preston family, who were Premier Viscounts of all Ireland, lived in nearby Gormanstown Castle, which is about 2 miles to the east of here. And this was their family chapel, built in, they got permission to build it in February of 1434. And that was even before they became Premier Viscounts of all Ireland. They were bestowed with that title in 1478 by Edward IV, with services to the King of England, of course. So we're in the Preston family chapel, and the first tombstone you see here is called a cadaver tombstone. It shows a person after they have been dead for some time, but not yet fully skeletonized. And what you see here is a woman. This woman's name is Jane D'Artois, who was married to Christopher Preston, and she died in the 1440s. And what you can see here is it depicts Jane D'Artois, and she's encased within a shroud which is open at the head and the feet, tied back at the head and the feet, so the shroud is open down the middle. And it depicts her body not long after she's been dead, hence the name of a cadaver. And what it shows is a lot of insects feeding off the remains of the body. So you can see little eyes and things on some of these, like, kind of creatures. So you've got all these kind of creatures with tails, some of them up around here, which are very hard to make out now because of the weather over the years has come down on top of leaves and vegetation and all that. So it kind of wore away some of the monuments, but some of them are little slugs. Some of them has got slug type bodies with little legs on them, and the heads, and some of the flames are shooting out through the mouths of them. So they're little demons and things. They're snakes, toads, worms, beetles, and you can see them all here. There's another one there. There's one here on the breast which is pretty well worn, and here's another one here. There's one there with a crooked tail. So this is the type of thing. There's an identical stone to this just outside of Drogheda in an estate called Bewley House. Bewley House is just to the east of Drogheda, about 2 miles to the east of Drogheda, on the way to Baltray Golf Course. And in Bewley House, which is owned by the same family since the 17th century, but there's one of these, and it's standing upright in the old graveyard of Bewley. It's identical to this one here, and they're the two oldest. Now there's no doubt that the one here at St Mullan and the one in the grounds of Bewley House just outside Drogheda have been made by the same marker, because Helen Rowe, the archaeologist who done the eminent work on all of these cadaver tombstones, there's only 9 in the country, on the right breast here of her there's a little kind of creature eaten here, but there's letters here. The Helen Rowe thought they were 1151. Very difficult to make out here, but when somebody comes in and films with the kind of silver throw on, you can see the whole thing lighting up.
It comes out in edit, maybe.
It comes out clearly. Now, she thought it was 1151. Now, the same mark is on the same breast in the same position on the one in Bewley House. But it couldn't be 1151 because it's too early for the Black Death. And these type of figures first appear on stained glass windows in France following the Black Death of the 14th century, so around 1347, 1348, when Europe lost a quarter of its population. And they began in stained glass windows, then paintings, and then ultimately they began to be carved. So all of the 9 cadaver stones in Ireland are carved in England. And they're brought over to ports in Ireland. So they appear there's 2 in County Louth, a double one in Drogheda, and one in Bewley, 2 miles outside Drogheda.
Yeah.
There's 2 in County Meath, one here at St Mullan, and one in a place called Travet, which is over near the borders of County Kildare, near Enfield, on the borders of County Kildare with Dublin. So over that side of County Meath. The rest of them, one is in Gowran, one is in Castledermot in Kildare, one is in Gowran in Kilkenny, and the next ones I think are in Waterford, Cork, There could be two in Waterford maybe.
Wow, and I never knew they were that close.
Yeah, so they're down there, but these are the most gruesome. The one at St Mullan and the one in Bewley is the most gruesome. And when Helen Rowe looked at the one in Bewley, she's seen the same figures, but then when you clean it up and see them, it's not 1151, it's too early. And then it looks like 115. Why? Well, whatever it is, Helen Rowe maintains that it's the maker's mark on this one.
Oh, like a number, yeah. So how many, would it be like, say, a painting? You know, the way they're numbered.
It could be a maker's mark. We can't know for certain because they're medieval and we haven't got the documents for them. But the two of them, this one here in St Mullan and the one in Bewley outside Drogheda, are identical in every way, shape and form.
Yeah, they're amazing, aren't they?
Yeah, they really are.
Like, I've never really come that close to one before, and
yeah,
you know, they are. And as you were telling me earlier, then this
used to be open. You can see the cut there as where the cement actually is the stone itself, and you can see a faint signature of TW, which was Tom Wiseman, no longer with us, 1978.
1978.
Tom was a stonemason for the Meath County Council.
So he sealed this in 1978.
Yeah.
So there's the steps you were telling me as well going down under here, a vault.
The steps, the entrance to the tomb is just beneath our head.
Just beneath the head would be the entrance there, guys.
Would have been around that way.
Steps going inside, yeah.
To come in, originally to come in. The last burial here was 1925. And the next stone to it is, like, this isn't a cadaver stone. The cadaver is only where the body is wasting away.
Yeah.
This one shows the second Viscount Gormanstown, so William Preston, who died in 1532, and his second wife, Eleanor Dowdall, who was from Newtown, Stalaban, just outside of Drogheda. And this shows the second Viscount and his wife in high relief. So showing the Lord as he lived in his life with all the regalia and his titles and his sword and his dagger. She's got a crown on her head, she's got a chain around her neck, she's got a lapdog at her feet, and he's got the lion at his feet. So this is showing the Lord and his lady as they would have been in life, with all the regalia, all the titles, everything.
So it's like an effigy, really, isn't it?
Yeah, an effigy, whereas the next one is just a cadaver tombstone, which relates to the Black Death, which began in the mid-14th century, but the subsequent plagues continued afterwards. This particular tombstone dates then to around 1450, as does the one in Bewley, and they're the earliest of the 9
1450,
cadavers.
wow.
Yeah, so they're the earliest of the 9 cadavers.
Imagine to think we still have a part of history with us from 1400s, you know.
Yeah.
And it's important, I suppose, you know, to have, you know, that's the gate there. So the gate is locked up, and Brendan here is the caretaker and he looks after the area. He does a very good job because it's important to keep these places protected, you know, and safe from vandalism and stuff like that, because, you know, I think, you know, if one of these got damaged or broken or a part of it,
yeah,
you know, it would never be really the same to repair that.
They'd never repair the actual.
You know,
they will have some job probably trying to move it if the current Viscount wishes to be buried within the tomb.
Yeah.
I don't know where that will go with a debate between the OPW or the Heritage Service of Ireland or the National Monuments of the Museum. I don't know, but it would take a bit of work now to actually move that stone.
Oh yeah.
To get into the entrance.
That would be very heavy, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Well,
but like that, so
you could end up maybe breaking it, and to break away that concrete slab which surrounds it now, you could actually do damage to the stone that's encased now.
Yeah, because it's all together. Yeah.
So it's possible that's it would take a massive amount of work. Whether or not the next Lord will be buried, he also has got continuation of sons in his family too.
Yeah.
Now they've left Gormanstown Castle. The Preston family arrived in Gormanstown Castle 2 miles from here in 1363, and they remained throughout the whole centuries until 1947. And like many houses in the mid-20th century, they had to up sticks and go because their income basically throughout the centuries was based on tenants. And of course the Land Commission coming in the 1930s forced a lot of these big older English type of houses to close. They couldn't sustain themselves anymore, and this is exactly what happened. So as soon as after the First World War, with the last Viscount dying in the actual Second World War, that they up sticks and they go. So they sold the castle in 1947 and they moved to London. So that was the end of the family after about 600 years of being in the parish.
Yeah, and so it's very elaborate underneath here, say the vault. You have your lead coffins and
the leaders of the household were just buried below. So their brothers, sisters, wives. Unless you were the head of the family, you weren't going to get buried in the tomb.
So there's an altar down there, as I think you were telling
Yeah, there's an altar
earlier.
there. So this was a chantry chapel. This would have been where the family would have come in at mass times.
Yeah.
There's two arches in here. Again, hard to make out with the ivy, but you can make out this particular arch here.
You can see, yeah.
They've been since blocked up and closed. So inside, these arches were originally open. And what was inside the wall is the ruins now of St Patrick's Parish Church of St Mullan, and where the priest would be inside here saying mass down to his congregation. The congregation in the aisle further down behind the arches wouldn't have actually seen the gentry family in here at mass as well. So they had their own privacy, and that being their
separated
own private chapel, to also listen to the priest who was next door saying his divine service for them.
Some great stuff for history, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's still standing, thankfully.
Yeah.
You can just see through there, yeah, the old... And it's a lovely little job they've done here as well, isn't it?
This is for little children who were in a baby's home from 1955 to 1987. St Clair's, run by nuns, St Joseph's Babies Home, St Mullan, yeah. Aware of this. And the little kids would pass away or whatever, for whatever reason, they would be buried down here in the graveyard. So this is just a
memorial
place
area for them.
Some of the children would have been buried within here, because this, when you're back this far in the chapel, you would be outside the actual tomb now. So you're digging down onto the roof of the tomb. The tomb stops about here underneath.
So all this vault area stops just where you're standing.
It's underneath us.
Yeah.
When you went down the steps, you came down to a little altar.
It's a big area, isn't it, when you think about it? Like from the top of that up there entrance, just over as far as here.
Yeah.
Like it is a massive area of vault, isn't it?
Yeah.
And how many coffins is in there again?
Well, it depends on how many head of the household was buried down here. Some of them died overseas, so weren't buried down here. It's been a tomb, as I said, so they've acquired the chapel here since the mid 15th century, and the mid 15th century. So the first lord to go into it, and there was many viscounts after that. So the first viscount would have went into it after 1478. Some of them didn't die in Ireland, some of them died in battles and that overseas. But there would be quite a few viscounts in here.
Yeah.
There'd be quite a few buried in here when they passed over the centuries, yeah.
And there's a connection then to Kensington in England.
Well, no, the current viscount lives in Kensington.
Oh, he lives in Kensington, the current viscount.
He was in the House of Lords.
House of Lords,
in 1939, so he's well on in age. He's now retired from the House of Lords, but he would be the current Viscount Gormanstown, so he would be his name is Nicholas Dudley Preston.
Nicholas Dudley Preston.
Nicholas Dudley Preston is his name, and he would be currently the 17th Viscount Gormanstown. And he has two sons. He has a William and a Jenico beneath him as well. So.
Yeah. And they're still around. Imagine the line keeps going, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The family line keeps going and going.
Yeah. Down on the side of the tomb here, there's a couple of crests, which would be crests of families.
Family crest, yeah.
To the Prestons, so they're the likes of the Birminghams, St Lawrence, Molyneux, Dowdall, those type of families. Big, powerful Anglo-Norman families, who also stuck to their Catholic religion.
Yeah.
So you would have all these old original Anglo-Norman clans that came to Ireland in the 12th century, 13th century. Of course, we were all the same religion. And then it was Henry VIII who closed the monasteries by disagreeing with the Church of Rome in 1536. And once he'd done that, then if you're now a friend of the Church of Rome, you're no longer a friend of Henry VIII. So this was the first time there was animosity between both countries with religion. So he fell out with the likes of the older Anglo-Norman families that were powerful in Ireland by this stage, all Catholic. So you would have had the likes of those powerful families: Preston, Talbot, Cusack, Barnwell, Fleming, all of those type, Nethervilles, Lynches. So all of those families that came with the Normans, hence the title like of the 14th century, Jesus the Normans, were more Irish than the Irish themselves, because they were marrying into Gaelic families, they were preaching the Gaelic laws, they were wearing the Irish dress, and so they were even speaking the Gaelic language. And on order of the English government 1366, called the Statutes of Kilkenny, you're no longer going to preach them Gaelic laws in Ireland, you're not going to marry into the Gaelic families. So even there was animosity there, because the Normans, that's where we get the term from, becoming more Irish than the Irish themselves. But by the time Henry VIII closes the monasteries, now if you're not going to become the Church of England, if you're a friend of Rome, you ain't a friend of me. So he lumped these together with the rebels of Ireland, who were always against everybody.
Yeah.
So the insurgents of Ireland, the likes of the O'Neills, the O'Hanlons, the O'Donnells, the O'Carrolls, the McMahons, all of those clans in Ulster, who were dead set against the crown anyway. At the time of Henry VIII, he now is bringing the Anglo-Norman Catholic aristocracy. For the first time, they've got something in common with our native Irish, the clans of Ulster, hanging on to their religion. So now you've got Preston joining with the likes of Phelim O'Neill and the O'Neills of Ulster, and hence, of course, Henry VIII's daughter puts a stop to that, and she's the person responsible, her and James I, for the plantation of Ulster, the flight of the Earl, 1607, the plantation of Ulster, 1610, and then the Irish uprising again, 1641. Preston, the Viscount at the time, shakes hands with Phelim O'Neill. Phelim O'Neill actually marries a niece of the Lord Gormanstown. So here you have Irish insurgency who have been dispossessed of their 6 counties. In 1641, when they see the rattles of Parliament
actually joining together then.
Yeah, you've Charles I, who is making too much, what's he doing, leniency towards Catholicism in England. Cromwell doesn't like that. Too much power the king has, hence the civil war in England. And because of the civil war in England, then the Irish see that as an opportunity, and you have the rebellion in Ireland of 1641, which the aristocracy of the Anglo-Normans, Catholic, are now shaking hands with the likes of Phelim O'Neill and Rory O'Moore, Miles the Slasher O'Reilly, O'Carrolls, the O'Donnells, the O'Hanlons. All of these people are lumped together, all because of what Henry VIII done in 1536.
What a damn Slasher.
Yeah, the Slasher O'Reilly.
The Slasher, he got that for a reason, I'm sure.
He did, of course, and he was killed at the Battle of Finney in County Longford in 1646 by Cromwellian soldiers. So that was the huge animosity between the countries, lumping these people together. And because of Preston in the 1641 rebellion, siding with the Irish rebels of the north, of Phelim O'Neill, because of that, they lose their title. So they lose the title in 1641, and when Cromwell comes, he takes the land from them. They don't lose their house, so they stay in the castle because they're pretty big, but they lose their title. So their title's not recognised from the 6th Viscount, even though they continue to have it, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th. The 11th Viscount dies, and he leaves a kid that's only the age of 12. He's Jenico Preston in the castle. But his granny, a Barnwell, a Catholic, has to take the child and hide him because his mother, who has been divorced from the father, is actually English Protestant, and she wishes to take the 12-year-old, bring him to England and educate him in the Protestant faith in England. And the granny Barnwell in the castle is having none of that.
Beautiful to see, and great information from you, Brendan. Thanks very much for giving us the little story of the history of the family here that's buried here and everything that goes with it. So if you're interested, guys, in coming here and having a look at this old tombstones here and the history that's involved, you can contact Brendan. I think there's a sign on the gate there with your phone number if you're interested in coming to have a look at them. And it's well worth coming here in St Mullan in County Meath to have a look at these. It's lovely stones. So thanks again, Brendan.